Hello, welcome to the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. I am your host, Roy Kessel, and today we are very excited to have with us Jesse Marks. Jesse is the Executive Director of the Miami Dolphins Foundation and also the Executive Director of Dolphins Challenge Cancer. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Roy. It's great to be with you, and appreciate all your work in our industry.
Well, you're doing amazing things down in Miami. We know the Dolphins have one of the best reputations for work in the community. You guys put out an amazing follow up on social media to share the work that you're doing. And I think you're a great role model for so many organizations. So we're going to spend a lot of our time on the Dolphin side, but I want to jump back to the Jesse side and hear how you developed your passion for sports.
I think as most young kids growing up, you get exposed to sports through your parents. We were a big baseball family. I played baseball all the way through high school. Quickly realized I was not going to be that competitive in South Florida growing up. We got great baseball town here, and I ended up just getting a job after in my junior year, and I ended up working at a five-star resort in the golf department. And really that looking back now at this point in my career, that was the start of everything. That was the start of learning how to communicate with people, learning how to communicate with wealthy individuals, philanthropists. Didn't know that at the time, but business leaders, especially working in the golf area, taught me the rules of that game and everything that golf brings to the table for anybody who plays it: discipline, strategy, commitment to your craft, and really exposed me to the business leaders in Miami. Ended up going to school at University of Miami. Did not leave. Got exposed to the athletic department and found my way somehow through into intercollegiate athletics development and fundraising for a major athletic department. You never say, "Hey, I want to be a fundraiser." It just sort of happens, and a combination of your experience and your personality come together to create this unique profession that's like no other in the world. So I moved up the ranks and became the chief development officer and senior associate athletic director for development at University of Miami. I was there for 15 years altogether. I had a couple bounced around in between, but always came back to the University of Miami. And my last role there was about just very close to 10 years. We raised over $250 million for athletic facilities, endowments, and scholarship support. Just an unbelievable time for philanthropic giving, one-on-one major giving. Really hone my craft to be able to establish campaigns, communicate a message, a need, build personal, meaningful one-on-one relationships. Really during that time, you establish yourself as somebody who has the right to ask for money. A mentor told me that not too long ago. Whenever we're representing an organization, we have to have the credibility, the trust, and the track record to successfully ask for money. It's a right to be able to do that, and those are the successful fundraisers. Really developed that there. The Miami Dolphins gave me a ring. Our owner and Stephen Ross, our vice chairman and CEO, Tom Garfinkel, and Jason Jenkins, who you know very well, our senior vice president. They really had a vision of the Dolphins ownership and the Dolphins community team. Giving back's ingrained into our culture. I say it all the time of the Miami Dolphins, but they had a vision that would the public hop onto that? Would the public join in our efforts through their funds, resources, and time, and join efforts with the Miami Dolphins to have even a greater impact? It's a fine line in a professional sports model and private ownership to successfully pull that off. So they spoke to me about that, and I firmly believe that not only is it possible, it's extremely viable and something that needs to be explored. So I accepted the position at the Miami Dolphins probably 3 to 4 months before the pandemic really stopped everything. Part of my job is the Dolphins Challenge Cancer Initiative, which is the largest single fundraising entity from a professional sports team. We just made a historic $75 million commitment, which is the largest known commitment by a professional sports team to a nonprofit, to University of Miami Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center. The Miami Dolphins, with that, the Miami Dolphins are very serious about our efforts to find a cure for cancer and eradicate cancer and the burden cancer has on the South Florida community. That's why we did that. We're continuing to build on that event, that model, that program. We took it from an event now to a movement. And then with the Dolphins Foundation, we launched our food relief efforts, which have raised close to $5 million. And over 1,000 individual gifts from Miami Dolphins fans in the community supported that project. So we had sponsors. We had Mr. Ross stepped up with a sizable match, and then the public joined our efforts, and our season ticket members and everybody else affiliated with the Dolphin brand who wanted to make a gift. So right off the bat, we demonstrated, okay, we have the Dolphins Challenge Cancer Initiative, which has over 25,000 donors to about 4,000 participants. Then we moved that over to the Miami Dolphins Foundation with food relief, and we've essentially grown larger than the traditional sports foundation model of 50-50 raffles, in-person events, and selling merchandise. We still do that. We'll take the money any way possible. So we'll still handle that. But programmatic support is really the way to grow our philanthropy and getting the community involved. And it's tough to do. You have to have a good cause. You have to have an appealing cause. You have to have the right to ask for money, and you have to have a way to collect it.
Well, you've covered a lot, a lot of ground there. I love that comment about the right to ask for money, because that credibility in the fundraising world is really everything. The ability to go and articulate what your cause is, what your mission is, and you're the custodian of those funds. People are entrusting you to take those funds and do something productive with it. And it's interesting because it's a conversation I've had with so many athletes and so many organizations about how they do things and raise money. And historically, right, I think sports philanthropy has not been done well. When you look back over the years, it's become a lot better in the last 10 years and continues to escalate. And I love seeing the growth. But we've had athletes that would say to us, yeah, we raised $100,000 at our golf outing. I was like, no, you grossed $100,000 at your golf outing, but you flew in all of your friends first class and put them up in 5-star hotels and took them out for steak dinners. Like, what was the net? They're like, well, that 5 or 10,000 we raised is more than that organization would have had if we didn't hold the outing. I was like, sure, but the people who are coming and supporting you are not expecting that, they're getting 5 to 10% of the money is getting through to the cause. So the fact that you're utilizing existing infrastructure, right, that the Dolphins already have in place, right, and you're going through so many things. You talked about the $75 million commitment to the cancer center. That's a huge number. But more impressive to me than the dollars is 25,000 donors to that campaign, because it's hard to rally that support. And when you go back and look at it and people start understanding, every contributor matters, right? They may only be able to give 25 or 50 or $100, but those gifts are important and they add up and they increase that momentum for what you're doing. The food relief, yeah, I want to hear more about that. I know we follow a lot of the work Jason does, incredible work and promoting all of that through social media. We see every day new information coming out. I'd love to hear how that started.
So yes, so the food relief, obviously, the pandemic, literally right when this started to materialize, and we were going to know the fallout of it. Jason and Tom, our CEO and our senior vice president, gave me a call and said, Mr. Ross, our owner, wants to do something that's going to really help the community during COVID. But it can't just be a one-time pop. It can't be, oh, here's $1 million. Go, let's have a food rally. They understood the gravity of the situation probably better than anybody that I've seen so early on. And they said, we need to do something that's sustainable over a longer period of time. So the number that Mr. Ross put up was significant right off the bat. Was $2 million. It was just unbelievable amount of generosity there. And the challenge was to develop a program that fed as many people for as long as possible. Then that got approached to me, and I said, well, can I take $1 million of that and have a pledge to the community to join our efforts, and let's have an even bigger impact and create a giving program and a match challenge. It came back to me as, okay, no, we're going to give you the 2 million, and if you raise another million, we'll give you a third million. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. Right off the bat, the Lennar Foundation, Lennar Home Builders, led by Chairman Stuart Miller and their executive director of their foundation, Marshall Ames, contributed $1 million to this program. With the caveat, though, that's not matchable because that would be too easy, right? Here's a $1 million check on top of Mr. Ross's commitment. So go raise the other million. So we raised the other million. We got that, and then we went out on a fundraising campaign starting in June of last year to solicit all of Dolphins fans worldwide and the Miami community to make gifts of any size from $50 to $10,000 to support this program. And we're sitting right now, and we're going to hit this goal sometime in March on that second $1 million. We're somewhere around 900,000 right now, and we know we have the legs to get to the $1 million. This campaign revolved around social reach. It revolved around obviously a giving website. I'll get to that in a minute. And sponsors jumped on board and really answered the call on the immediate need of food insecurity. Annual funds and I think giving programs have 3 reasons why people give, and it's our job as fundraisers and experts in philanthropy to understand those 3 reasons and hit all 3 of those reasons at any time. 1, people give for philanthropy and the cause. That's a segment of the population, but not everybody. 2, people give for benefits. What can your organization offer me? I may like the cause, but is there something that you can dangle out there and give to them? So in the case of the Miami Dolphins or any sports organization, you got a lot of stuff to offer. Use it. So we created a small benefits package for people who give at $50, $150, $250, $500, or even more. And then 3 is access, priority, however you want to phrase it, being around the distribution, seeing how it works, coming to the stadium, associating themselves with the Miami Dolphins brand. Those are probably the 3 reasons why people would give, and you can craft your 3 reasons for wherever you are in the sports philanthropy world. But you can draft your ways, but it's going to be around those 3 reasons why somebody would give to a programmatic cause. So we use that, and it worked, and it's really heartwarming to see we had the need, and we have the brand, and we had the infrastructure to have the right to ask for money. And I'll go back to that.
Well, and you've certainly demonstrated that you've got the capability to bring people together. I think the interesting one you raise, right? The cause and the philanthropy are easier to understand because those are people that really care with a passion, and it's not about any of the other things. They just want to help see that cause and organization do better. The access and priority we understand because people like to do something that's more exclusive, that they get an opportunity to be behind the scenes or see something. Same reason as backstage passes at a concert are a big deal, or somebody being on the sidelines for a game is a big opportunity, right? And what's always interesting to me in those benefit packages is like what's really making somebody go up to that next tier? Are they really doing it for the hat or the golf shirt or the plaque? What are you finding is of interest to people?
So honestly, it's getting something that they can't get anywhere else. It's in a hat exclusive to our food relief efforts. It's a custom football with your name on it that's exclusive to our food relief efforts. I can be honest, in this campaign, I think it was more people wanted to align themselves and their philanthropic dollars with the Miami Dolphins brand. They knew that pretty much 100% of their gift was going to go directly to providing meals for South Florida. Um, I maybe out of 1,000+ donors, I maybe had 3 people ask me, where's my benefit or when's it coming? So it's by the time they make their gift, by the time we get it out to them and they receive something that's special and unique and inclusive with a nice note from me or somebody on our staff, it's more like a thank you, even though that we use that. So I mean, I can't tell you we did custom footballs for anybody that gave $1,000. That football cost us like $23 that we paid for out of the foundation, um, and just the thank yous and the posts on social media. That's the effect on it. Is, hey, so when we come out with our scholarship program in 6 to 8 months, the same people that gave to food relief are going to give to our scholarship program because they saw how they were treated, they saw how they were recognized, they saw how they were thanked, and they saw how we delivered on what we said we were going to do. Another thing that came out of food relief is when we started this, it was right before the tragic events in Minnesota with the George Floyd and the social unrest that came out of it, and the program morphed a little bit because we had so much support and so many dollars coming in. We realized another need where restaurants were getting hit very, very hard with the pandemic. So sourcing these meals was a area of us to provide another win coming out of the program. So we went to particularly minority-owned restaurants were getting hit very hard. So we sourced $1 million of our spend on the meals through minority-owned local restaurants in South Florida. We just hit that threshold this week. It is really, really sad what has happened to the food service and restaurant industry throughout the pandemic, and especially in our local pockets and minority-owned restaurants. They were hit very, very hard. They're not big corporate restaurants. They don't have the family-owned most of the time. So we funded $1 million to those restaurants in South Florida, created, I call it a restaurant army that we have now in our local community. And not only did this program keep a lot of these restaurants afloat and their operations afloat, it kept hundreds of people employed. And that was a huge win that developed out of this program, just out of the idea of feeding people. Then how are we spending this money and who's that going to help? So it's a win-win on both sides.
One of the things I give you a lot of credit for in that initiative is what you're talking about was certainly from an operational level a harder route to take than contacting one of the corporate larger organization types of groups and saying, hey, we're going to need this
Yep.
flow of meals, right? You could have picked up and made one phone call and say, hey, this is what we need every day. We need it in this community on Tuesday and in that community on Wednesday. And so going out and really diving in shows the commitment of the team to the community to really say, like, we care about not only the people we're feeding, right? But as you said, so many restaurants are struggling. So many people that are employed at the restaurants aren't able to work because there's just not enough business going through there. So you're really hitting multifaceted benefits, right, with those same dollars
Yep.
because you are helping those restaurants. And I think it's an area that's really underappreciated when people don't recognize how much time and work goes into running a restaurant or any type of food service. You think about what goes on at the stadium on a game day and all of the preparation from a food and food and beverage to prepare for a stadium of 80,000 people. It's an enormous undertaking, and most of these restaurants, as you said, they're family owned businesses, right? That's their living. they're not making a killing, that they're making their existence. They spend a lot of hours there, and they don't have the ability to pick up their restaurant and move somewhere else where they can maybe find more customers.
Yeah, and I give complete credit to our food relief operations team, Leslie Nixon. I'm sure you know Leslie from her just time running our community relations department. She had an army out there sourcing all these restaurants, finding these great stories and of restaurants that not only serve unbelievable food, just extremely tasty food, but that are hanging on, that need help, and that's a full-time job times 30. And we did have a corporate caterer. We used Center Plate, our concessionaire, and then they were partners with us in this whole thing, and they understand the need in the community too. They're in the same business, and they wanted to spread the wealth around as well. So they it was a win-win. We did all of our drive-through locations at the stadium were catered by Center Plate, and then whenever we went off-site was a local minority-owned restaurant. So it was just a win-win across the board, and that kept people employed in corporations, at the stadium, and in the community. It just hit every facet. When you talk about a complete 360 program, this was it.
Well, that's a great initiative. I want to hear more about the cancer challenge, because I know you talked a little bit about the gift and the number of donors, but let's dive a little bit more into what's going on with that initiative.
Absolutely. So the Dolphins Cycling Challenge, when it first started 11 years ago, Jim Mad Dog Mandich, our one of our famous hero Dolphins alumni, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And while he was still with us, excuse me, it wasn't pancreatic cancer, it was a similar type of cancer. And while he was with us, he was treated at Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center at University of Miami. He was just so heartfelt by the level of care and the experimental treatments he had. The prognosis was not good, but he was just so touched by everything and the treatment that he had that he wanted to do something while he was still with us to honor them and raise money for cancer research. And this idea was formed. It started off as a small bike ride, raising a couple $100,000, and with the Dolphins' logistical expertise, the power of and University of Miami and their fundraising enterprise, it had blossomed to a top 10 peer-to-peer cancer cycling event or cycling event in the country. That's unheard of that quickly. Last year, we raised a record $6.2 million, grew it quite a bit by adopting some best practices in peer-to-peer fundraising. We are poised to become a top 5 peer-to-peer cycling event in the next 3 to 5 years. It has over 4,000 participants. This year, we pushed it back a little bit because of COVID. We're set to go on April 10th. The Miami Dolphins, through partnerships, and the Miami Dolphins fund 100% of this. So 100% of participant raised dollars goes directly to Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center. So with our $75 million commitment that we made in November, which is the known largest commitment by a professional sports team, we changed the name from a Moment Dolphins Cycling or Dolphins Cancer Challenge to Dolphins Challenge Cancer. So it went from a moment in time to a movement. So we just don't want to be known as a cycling event. We are not just a cycling event. We are a year-round initiative that is serious about eradicating cancer in South Florida and beyond. And that takes place through our programming, that message. And for the Miami Dolphins organization, it's imperative that the world knows that we are tied to finding a cure for cancer. And hopefully that commitment lets everybody know how serious we are about it. It is something that we think about every day, and we want to continue to support Sylvester as the only NCI designated research cancer hospital in South Florida. So it's amazing the work that they're doing. Their director, Dr. Stephen Neimer, is a legend in the field, and we're growing something down here that's going to go well beyond this 75 million. I'm already thinking about the next 100 million after that, after a few years. So that's the goal, is to get into a position to have even a further impact down the road. But we needed to take it from a singular event or just a bike ride to being known as a more of a fundraising movement.
And I think you really hit on a key point there, which is that transformation of the brand from being a single stage event to that movement, and the validation of the truly the enormous support that you've shown in terms of finding 25,000 people to jump on that initiative so quickly, really speaks to the ability, as you said, to raise more money, right? Because part of what you're looking at is how do we get that next 100 million. All of these fundraising initiatives typically start slowly until somebody can validate, like, what are you doing? Let's see that you can really get this done, right? I'm sitting here on the sidelines and I've got my checkbook. I'd love to give you money, and maybe I give you a little bit of money, but I really want to see, is Jesse and the Dolphins collectively going to be able to pull this together? So as you look ahead now over those next 3 years, you talked about 100 million for the cancer challenge. Talk about what else you see on the horizon for the foundation. I think you threw out something about a scholarship program, but I'd love to hear what other plans you have in the works.
Absolutely, and philanthropy for a professional sports team is much different than philanthropy from a collegiate athletic department. We are at the Miami Dolphins. We're one small part of a huge organization, and sometimes we get pulled in many different directions. You know, a player is doing a charity here, or the NFL needs us to do this. That is fine. There's room for everything. But what we ask the public for money for needs to be extremely disciplined. And those are the things that we ask for money for. And everything has to follow that. We can give money out from our discretionary fundraising to whatever we need to do. But what we physically ask for money for needs to be very disciplined. And it's going to take time to develop. I see us having the scholarship program, the Nat Moore Scholarship Endowment Program, which is an honorary scholarship named after Nat Moore, a great humanitarian in South Florida, Dolphin, complete legend, great human being. He has a scholarship fund that we brought under the Miami Dolphins Foundation a few years back. That needs to take a prominent role in terms of our education funding. And that is what we would raise money for, much like we do for food relief. Thankfully, food relief has been a success. We've affected a lot of people, and this pandemic is, God willing, winding down. And that's something that we know we have the infrastructure to, relaunch if there's ever a need to again. But hopefully that is something that we don't have to revisit again. So we'll have a scholarship fund, we'll have the Dolphins Challenge Cancer, and then we'll have our discretionary fundraising for the foundation, which is your traditional models, maybe your golf tournament, maybe your 50-50 raffle. But that's a method of revenue for a fundraising organization. That's not what I really consider fundraising. I consider fundraising either face-to-face, major gift solicitations, or programmatic annual programs, causes such food relief, the scholarship fund, Dolphins Challenge Cancer, things like that. So we are going to really hone in and be disciplined in those areas, and obviously be adaptable if something comes up. And the key is having the infrastructure in place through technology, through cause-related literature, expertise in these fields is a big thing. It just can't say, we're going to just rely on sponsorships to do this or rely on marketing to do this. But development and fundraising and philanthropy is its own business, and it operates under a completely different set of skills than a lot of the other units in a professional sports organization. So we have to educate, we have to let people know what we're doing, but we also have to utilize those specialized skills, hire for those specialized skills, utilize them to create an environment to foster successful philanthropy. In my case, it's asking for money. All of those things earn us the right to do what we do.
one of the interesting things you pointed out there is a different skill set that's needed from a philanthropy perspective in terms of comparing it to sponsorship or sales or other areas within the team operations. So tell us a little bit about how the Dolphin Foundation is structured and how many people are involved in that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're trying to solidify all of that now. We're a part of the Miami Dolphins organization. We are embedded directly in the organization. Um, the Miami Dolphins Foundation funds our CR community relations activities. Now, some part of that comes through partnerships, but our goal is to anything the Miami Dolphins Foundation asks money for, funds our community relation, our fundraising efforts out in the community. So we rely on a wide range of experts for our support. We need internal marketing to get the word out to our Dolphins fans, our Dolphins brand, our Dolphins season ticket members. That's a huge avenue for growth, an area for growth. We rely on an external advertising ad agency, marketing agency for our cause-related marketing. This is where it gets very disciplined in our approach, and we need to be very specific on the experts we bring in. Not everybody can write, craft, design for a cause-related message. Some people can, some people can't. We rely on a firm that has strong ties in South Florida, with my background and their creative expertise, coming up with a cohesive message, brand, look, and feel that fits within the Dolphins brand, but then supports a philanthropic message. That's been key for us. So it's really working with a whole bunch of vendors to help us in the areas that may not be 100% based in the Miami Dolphins organization. Also keeping in mind that the Miami Dolphins are pro sports teams are for-profit businesses where we want to do good in the community, but it's not the main thing that's going on. As fundraising professionals inside these organizations, we have to realize that. So are we going to take ownership and expertise over our areas and have that expertise and hire for that expertise, or we're going to increase the workload and the burden on the units that have to meet the bottom line of the organization to keep the lights on and foster competitive excellence and do those things? My goal has always been, I have the expertise to reduce that burden on the organization and do some things ourselves and hire in that way. So we're not taking marketing away from selling tickets or sponsorships from selling sponsorships to meet the revenue goals of the organization. So I think being aware of that is a big thing. And I think sometimes that gets lost from professionals in our world because we are so passionate and love what we do so much. But I come from that other side of the model where the main thing was the main thing. So I understand that I cannot be a resource drain on the for-profit side of the Miami Dolphins organization.
And you raise an interesting point there because historically, as I've spoken to people over 25 plus years in the sports business world, I would hear stories from people in the foundations, and again, it's improved a lot, but I would hear stories, somebody telling me like, I'm in charge of the foundation and I'm told don't contact any of the other teams in our marketplace because we don't want them to cannibalize our ideas or what we're doing, right? It's a finite money for sponsors. So don't collaborate with the teams in our own market. Don't collaborate with the teams in our own league because we don't want them to know what we're doing. And by the way, don't bother the marketing and sponsorship and sales departments because they've got their own job to do. And too often the foundations were left on this little island with very few resources and very little support. Obviously, Steve Ross has a great track record for everything he's done, from creating Rise to the work that you're doing directly through the Dolphins, and supporting everything that he does. So you've been given a nice set of resources to be able to do that, but recognizing, as you do, you can't be a drain and a distraction to the core function of the team. You've got to be something that enhances the brand and provides a great, in a sense, psychic return for the community, because that helps everything else that you do as a Dolphins brand.
Absolutely, well said. And you know, we have to find the avenues to work together too, and understand, sponsorships as business goals. They're focusing on big sponsorships that we can focus on community partnerships that don't affect the partnerships operation of the main organization, or the mothership, as I like to call it. And that's an avenue for support, because a few $25,000 partnerships for the foundation is a big deal. For the corporate partnerships are not swimming in those seas. They're swimming in the $1 million deals, which will benefit us down the road. But that could really go a long way in our community programs. A $25,000 gift, a $25,000 gift. That's a lot of money. So that's something that I've stressed a lot, is we need to develop our own community partnership program, so we're not 100% reliant on the business model of the organization. It needs to flow both ways, and there needs to be some ability for us to sell community level partnerships to benefit our causes as well. But it's you have to be disciplined in that approach. It can't just be, okay, it's raining outside, I'm going to take a different approach for my foundation. That's not a way to run a nonprofit.
No, and as you talked about, the ability to mesh those brands and have a cohesive strategy that complement each other and really elevate each other, because some of the work that you're doing in the community, I would think, adds to the value of the corporate partnerships and sponsorships that the business side is doing, because you've developed such a good reputation and people see that connection to the brand as having even more value when you're doing things all year round, and it's not just on 8 home games a year or the fall season. So Jesse, I want to congratulate you on the great work. I know the Dolphins have always been one of the top teams that we've seen, and impressive work continues. I know with your leadership, I'm excited to see some of the new things that you create and develop, and the growth of the ones that you've talked about. So, but before we let you go, we want to put you on the spot for a minute here. We're going to use our sports philanthropy superpowers and wave our magic wand, and we're going to make you commissioner of one of the sports. So tell us what sport you would choose.
PGA.
Okay, so the PGA now, you're going to take over the PGA tour, move over from Miami up to Jacksonville, and get a new home up there. And what's your first initiative? What's your first change, either a rule of the game or some type of policy?
Um, rule of the game. Wow, I wasn't ready for that one, even though you said it before. I was thinking more along from the spectator side of it. I want to I want to make golf tournaments more of an event. Much like we do with we did with the Super Bowl or the Miami Open tennis tournament on our grounds. The luxury seating, the high end restaurants that we bring in, the unique premium seating options that just huge couches with screens and interactive stuff and internet connectivity. I feel like that's sort of what the some of these PGA tournaments are missing. Obviously, you have your exclusive ones like the Masters and things like that, but some of the other ones in big cities, I think, can really, really benefit from some just modernization in the viewing experience. And obviously, that's going to improve revenue. But golf is so much fun to be out in a tournament and enjoying good weather. It would be so cool to get fans closer to the action. Obviously, safety is a concern with golf balls and all of that, but sort of expose it to a younger, more modern audience than it has been in the past.
Yeah, I think that the ability to get people close to the game is something that golf has always had. It's been interesting because you've got that true dichotomy, probably more than almost any other sport out there, where if you're at the event, you really can't see anywhere near as much of the event as you can see on TV, right? Because on TV you're hopping hole to hole, you can see every shot of the leaders. But that as a golfer, if you want to see what it really feels like and see the way these guys hit the ball and control the ball, and just some incredible shots. Any tournament you go to, you're going to see incredible golf. But being close and watching from just a few feet away, right? When you are right at the ropes and the guy hits the ball in the rough, you're literally within 3 feet, 5 feet of where the player's standing. And if you're on some of the greens, you can be fairly close.
Yeah.
It's an
I,
you,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say it's just a unique experience that you can't get at a lot of other sporting events.
Yeah, no, 100%. And putting on my nonprofit hat, golf taught me so much in my life. I'm not the best golfer, but it taught me so much. Rules of the game, formalities, etiquette, all of those things that served me very well in the nonprofit world and in the business world. More kids need to be exposed to that. It's very hard to do that not on TV watching golf. And if we can get more people to see it in a modern way, these phones have changed the way we do things. So that's one of the things I would look at based on my experience from golf. And I'm not a great golf competitor by any means, but just everything that that sport stands for and teaches, and the connections that it forges for people is amazing, amazing stuff that can't be replicated pretty much anywhere. That's one thing I would focus on if I was the commissioner of the PGA is the viewing experience at the events, and then finding a way to get the message out in the nonprofit world of what golf can do for young men and women.
There's no doubt the messages from golf are incredible. We've got some great groups in our network that work with kids to get them on the course, to teach them, as you said, all of the life skills that come out of golf, how to relate to people, how to, be polite and courteous and follow the rules and stay within those guidelines and be professional and talk at a level that may be, as you said, when you started above where you were at that point in your life, but set a great example for you and a great stage for you to look up to of, hey, that's something that I aspire to. That's something that I think that I can get to.
Yeah, we're actually hosting our golf outing. It's not really a tournament; it's an outing for some key supporters tomorrow at the course that I worked at right out of school. So it's like really come full circle, and it's really a special sport, and more than just competing and being outside. It teaches you so much more.
Well, Jesse, we want to thank you for coming on and sharing all of your insight with us today. It was great to learn more about the work of the Dolphins Foundation and the Dolphins Challenge Cancer Initiative. Thank you so much for your time.
Roy, I appreciate everything. Thank you.
And to all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking time to join us today for the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. This is your host, Roy Kessel, signing off. Please remember to live generously.